So get ready, because in the fall of 2025, the entire PC market is about to get a massive shakeup. Google and Qualcomm, they're teaming up for a full-scale assault on the laptop, and their weapon of choice is Android. And no, this is not just another Chromebook. We're talking about a really bold attempt to make the world's most popular mobile OS your next main computer.
You know, for decades, this has been the dream, right? This idea of a single, totally seamless experience that just moves with you from your pocket right to your desk. But here's the thing. The path to that dream is literally littered with the ghosts of really ambitious failures. It's a tech graveyard out there. And the stakes for Google's latest attempt to conquer it, well, they could not be higher. But the real question here is, can Google actually learn from the past? Can they avoid the same exact traps that have doomed so many others before them? Because to really get a handle on Google's chances, we've got to look back at one of the biggest, most spectacular failures in recent tech history. A failure that holds all the clues, all the lessons Google absolutely needs to learn.
Yeah, we're talking about the ghost of Microsoft's Windows 8. It was this massive, all-in bet on a unified operating system that just went spectacularly wrong. It's pretty much the perfect case study in how not to merge the mobile and desktop worlds.
Okay, so failure number one was the catastrophic app gap. Look, an operating system is absolutely nothing without its apps, right? Microsoft tried everything to lure developers to its Windows Phone, but they just weren't biting. The platform became this wasteland of missing services. No Snapchat, no native Gmail, and if you don't have the apps people actually use every single day, the hardware is basically just an expensive paperweight.
And then we have failure number two, the just jarring user experience. Microsoft took its touch-first interface, you know, the one with all the tiles, which was actually pretty decent on a phone, and they forced it onto a billion people using a mouse and a keyboard. On a big desktop monitor, it was just clunky, it was confusing, and it totally alienated their most loyal customers. It was the ultimate proof that you can't just shrink a desktop experience down and expect it to magically work on mobile.
Okay, so that's the cautionary tale. But Google is making the exact opposite bet. They're not trying to shrink a complicated PC operating system down to a phone. Nope. They are scaling a phone OS up to a PC. And this smartphone up approach, well, that's the core of their entire strategy.
I mean, you can see the two strategies right here, side by side. Microsoft tried to cram a really complex desktop system into a simple mobile format. It was forced. Google, on the other hand, is taking a simple, mature mobile system that literally billions of people already know how to use, and they're just giving it more room to run. It just feels like a much more natural evolution for how we actually use technology today, doesn't it?
And this smartphone-up approach gives Google some incredible, almost unfair advantages right from the start. Remember that app war that completely doomed Windows Phone? Well, it's over, and Google won. The Play Store has everything. But maybe even more important, billions of people are already experts at using Android. There's no learning curve. This makes it a supernatural, low-friction extension of the device they already live on.
Okay, so it all sounds pretty perfect, right? Brilliant strategy, massive advantages, but here's the twist. Despite all this, Google has a huge, persistent, and, yeah, potentially fatal flaw. It's a glaring Achilles heel that has killed some of its best ideas in the past. And what is it? It's their marketing.
Seriously, Google's history is another kind of graveyard, one filled with beautifully engineered products killed by just awful marketing. Google+, their social network, Allo, the messaging app, Stadia, the cloud game service. Each one was a technical marvel, and each one was a total marketing failure. Time and time again, Google just fails to tell a simple, compelling story about why you should even care.
And that brings us to the million-dollar question that Google absolutely has to answer. Why should you, the consumer, buy an Android PC? I mean, a Windows laptop is more powerful. A Chromebook is cheaper and simpler. If Google can't answer that question with a crystal clear, super compelling message, these new devices are just going to get lost in the noise, just like Windows Phone did.
So, let's flip this around. What happens if Google does get the marketing right this time? Well, the long-term vision here is nothing short of revolutionary. We're not just talking about a new kind of laptop. We're talking about fundamentally changing the very definition of what a computer even is.
The end game here, the big idea, is a concept called the primary brain. The idea is that your smartphone, the thing in your pocket right now, becomes the one and only computer you ever need. It holds all your files, all your apps, all your processing power, it becomes the true central hub of your entire digital life. So how does this work in practice? Well, imagine this. At your desk, you just drop your phone into a dock and boom, it instantly powers a full-size monitor and keyboard. When you're on the go, you connect it to a simple, lightweight laptop shell. The key thing to remember is the phone is doing all the heavy lifting. The other devices are just dumb screens and keyboards. Now, Samsung has played around with this idea with its DeX platform for years, but with Google's full weight behind it, this could finally become the new standard.
And if this vision actually takes hold, it creates a brand new battlefield in the tech world. It poses a really serious strategic threat to the two giants who have dominated personal computing for decades, Apple and Microsoft.
Yeah, this new model exposes some serious vulnerabilities for the big guys. Take Apple. They're still juggling 3 separate operating systems for hardware that's getting more and more similar every year. Google's unified approach puts a ton of pressure on them to maybe, finally, merge their platforms. And for Microsoft, the threat is a direct, head-on assault on their core Windows laptop market. It could force them to retreat and double down on their professional and enterprise strengths.
So the big question is, why should you care about any of this? Well, because your next computer might not be a computer in the way you think of it at all. It could just be a screen and a keyboard powered by the device that's already in your pocket. The apps you use every single day on your phone could become the only apps you need for absolutely everything. And that would trigger a massive power shift between the tech companies that basically shape our daily lives.
All right, which brings us to the verdict. This entire massive project really rests on a central tension. You've got this incredibly sound, logical strategy on one side and a historical, potentially fatal flaw on the other.
So this is basically the final equation. On one side, you've got Google's strengths, an unbeatable app ecosystem, billions of users who are already experts, and what seems to be the right smartphone-up logic. But on the other side, you have that one massive weakness, a long, painful history of marketing failures, and a really, really crowded market.
Ultimately, this is what it all boils down to. The technology? It's ready. The strategy? It's sound. But success or failure? It's not going to be decided in an engineering lab this time. It will be decided by Google's ability to do the one thing it has historically struggled with: to market a product with clarity, with passion, and with persistence.
Which leaves us with one final big question. Is the future of computing, that holy grail, finally here? Or are we just watching another brilliant idea take its first few steps towards a tombstone in that all-too-familiar tech graveyard? We'll have to wait and see. It all comes down to the story they tell.